What is going on, everybody? Hope everyone is enjoying their Labor Day holiday so far. You get a day off of work. Always nice to get a day off of work. Enjoy your 3-day weekend. So we are back here on now week number 2 of SEC Talk. Week number 1 was in the books. All of our SEC teams were in action. Some came away with a win. Some looking to get on the board still in 2024. So we will talk about some marquee games. We're not going to talk about all the games. We're going to wait to talk about all the SEC teams once we get into SEC play, because honestly, half of the games that went down aren't really much to talk about because most of the teams score like 70 points or 60. At you, Arkansas, and at you, Ole Miss, and honestly, even Auburn, they scored 70 points. Very nice weekend nonetheless. Good to have college football back. So, Wade, how was your weekend? Did you watch a lot of football today?
Yeah, I think I caught the best game of the weekend live, which was Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt definitely surprised us.
Go Doors.
I did not watch the Florida game, but didn't look like I needed to. And then Texas A&M was hanging right in there, and then they let it go. So, and of course, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. We all watched LSU last night. 5 straight season opener losses. Uh-oh.
Might be 6 because you got to go on the road to Clemson next year, and you host Clemson. So these stretch of big games that LSU has been in for seems like the past decade will continue on in 2026 and 2027 as they will face off against the Clemson Tigers in that home-to-home. So obviously we will get into that game. We'll probably be a little bit brief with it because we also have our Sports Grandma podcast show later today. And I'm sure that we're going to get heavily into that game. So let's go ahead and get right into today's show. As we always start off, we're going to be talking about the SEC teams in the AP Top 25 poll. But we're going to be a little bit brief for this because the AP Top 25 poll today will be released, the new one. But really looking at it, not really many changes here at the top. Georgia will remain the number 1 team after their big victory against the Clemson Tigers. Texas still probably remained at number 4 after beating Colorado State 52-0. Same with Alabama. They'll stay as same with Ole Miss too. They'll probably be 5 and 6. Alabama got the victory against Western Kentucky 63-0. Ole Miss, I believe they scored like 76 on Furman. It was just not the game to play against Ole Miss. Missouri, though, they might move up with Florida State losing in week number 0. Who knows if they're going to start off 0-2 That game will be tonight against Boston College at home. So we'll see if Florida State can bounce back. But Missouri, they should bounce into the top 10 after their victory on Thursday night. And then LSU, obviously, they're probably going to fall. How do you see LSU falling in this top 25 poll?
I mean, they lost to a top 25 team, and maybe Southern Cal deserved to be ranked a little higher. But I think at a minimum, you'll see them fall to probably that 20 spot where Texas A&M is, and Texas A&M will probably slide to probably 25. So, I mean, Tennessee is going to move up. They looked really good. Oklahoma looked sharp as well. So I think you'll see those 2 teams in the top 15, and LSU will fall to about 20.
Yeah, LSU, they're probably going to fall down to the 20s, I believe. Tennessee and Oklahoma, like you mentioned, big victories. Tennessee, Chattanooga as well. I mean, like Furman, they just not stand a chance. And then Oklahoma, they beat Temple on Friday night. Jackson Arnold looked really good. Not really in his debut, but his full start with this Oklahoma Sooner squad. Really nice performance there by Oklahoma on both sides of the ball. So Tennessee and Oklahoma will get a little bit of a bump with LSU's loss. Texas A&M, we'll see if they stay in the top 25. I believe they deserve to at least be at 25. I agree with you. They'll probably fall to like 24, 25. But we'll see if the Aggies can remain in the top 25. They'll look to bounce back against McNeese in College Station on Saturday night. As we always say here, if you ever questions pertaining to SEC football, because there might be a lot of questions, specifically from one fan base. The LSU fan base might have a lot of questions of what is going on. Why can't this team win game number 1? But if you have any questions, leave us a comment. I know it's early. This is like the earliest that we've done it since I was in college, probably.
It's a breakfast show.
Yeah, it's a breakfast show. We were usually doing the night shows. But since this is a Labor Day holiday, this is like our car wash. Like we're gonna have a Monday morning show, and then we'll have an afternoon, and then we have our fantasy football draft tonight. So it's gonna be a busy day for us over here on this Sports Scramble Media channel. But if you have any questions pertaining to any of the games from this past week, and then looking forward to week number 2, leave us down in the comment. All right, let's get SEC Fantasy Week 1 results. We had our SEC Fantasy Draft, our first one of the season. So, Wade, why don't you take it away with how your team did in this inaugural Week 1?
Oh, good. I'm glad somebody got over 100, and it was my defense.
Arkansas's defense. Who would have thought?
Yeah, they were my saving grace because Graham Mertz, womp, womp, womp. You won't be seeing him on my team ever again. Florida, I mean, honestly, probably the biggest disappointment of the weekend. The Gators did not look competitive at all at home against Miami, and they needed to because the schedule does not get any easier. So I don't think we're going to see Mr. Mertz. I thought he could make the jump, but he definitely got outplayed by Cam Ward in this one. He had just 94 total yards. I think he had like 86 passing yards and like a little scramble for 6 yards. Not much going there. Le'Veon Moss, he did what I thought he would. He got 15 plus carries against Notre Dame. He certainly wasn't the reason why the Aggies lost. He kept them in the game, providing 83 yards on the ground. So that was a good effort. We'll be seeing him again throughout the season, I'm sure. Isaiah Bond, he had a good debut for Texas, 86 yards. They didn't really need much out of him. They rolled to an easy victory, and they didn't want to spoil the play calls too much before the Michigan game. So he just went out there and had a good game. I think he'll be more involved when they need to draw plays up specifically for him. I think we'll see him again. Arkansas defense, man, this was a good pick. They let up just 130 total yards on Thursday night. I knew I was in good shape going into the weekend because that game was on Thursday. And they looked really sharp on offense and on defense. I know they were playing Arkansas Pine Bluff, an FCS school, but nonetheless, that's the kind of start Arkansas needed. You know, this is a team that we projected to be near the bottom of the conference, and just to get that momentum week 1 going into a big game against Oklahoma State this weekend, I think it gets them on the right track. So it was good to see the Hogs defense show up.
Yeah, and overall total 133. So
Definitely the defense.
after none of your position players could get to 100 total yards, your Arkansas defense saved you. Yeah, if you picked any other defense, it probably would have been a negative
I
score.
think Missouri also had under 200. That would have been a good pick.
Yeah, so you got rid of Arkansas's defense pretty early. That was probably a good pick. You know, they're playing Arkansas Pine Bluff and Little Rock. So 100, giving up 130 yards. That's pretty good showing for Arkansas. And Arkansas's offense, I think it's better than we thought. So who knows? Arkansas could be a sneaky team in this SEC if that offense can play like that every single week. But 133 total yards, start off positive. That's always nice to start off your season. So let's go to my team. Unlike your quarterback, my quarterback passed not only 100 yards, but 200 yards. Quinn Ewers, really good showing in his first outing of the 2024 season against Colorado State. Gavin Shawchuk, this like Graham Mertz, I might not pick him again. Very disappointing. It was a very running back by committee that Oklahoma ran against Temple, so only 15 yards rushing for Shawchuk. Kyron Lacey, I mean, he had himself a heck of a first half, but in the second half, for some reason, LSU went away from him. 94 yards in a touchdown. So if you were playing real life fantasy, bonus points for the touchdown there, but only at 94. So very good showing by the wide receiver one of the Tigers. But like I mentioned, LSU don't know what they did in the second half to not throw it to him. He only had one target in the second half. So that's definitely concerning for that offense. Tennessee's defense, 227 yards given up to Chattanooga, not too shabby by the Volunteers defense. So Tennessee and Arkansas, we're not going to see those defense for anymore as we will get into the rules. So 142, so that was a squeak of a win, 142 to 133. Yards. So even though that you see it there, like the defense was the difference in that one. Arkansas's defense showed up, only gave up 130, Tennessee 227. And even though that only one of my position players went over 100 yards, almost had two, but that was the difference of the defense. So 142 to 133, I get the win. And a very ugly showing for both of our teams in week number one. Hopefully, we can get
It's
some
always
better
hard
numbers.
though in the beginning because you know like Saul Shuck might have been the clear cut RB1 on the depth chart and just got like 5 carries. And same thing with Mertz. You hear people hyping him up all off season, and you just got to get a feel for these guys. You have freshmen that come out of nowhere, so I think it's good that we finished above 100, and we just go from there.
Hey, I'll take that as a positive. We could both finish in the positives and not the negatives. That's a win for me in week number one. So that's going to close the book for week number one on SEC Fantasy. Now let's shift our gears into week two. Just a reminder for our fans that are new to the show, we do have rules here in place for SEC Fantasy every single week. Our lineup is you get one quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, and a defense. As you can see, our defenses have been very crucial through week number one. That's only going to continue. Another rule is that we implemented last year, cannot draft the same player twice in back-to-back weeks. So if you drafted Quinn Ewers, can't draft him in week number two. So I won't be able to have Quinn Ewers against Michigan in that matchup. And once you draft a defense, you can't use them again. So like I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Tennessee for me is eliminated, and Arkansas for Wade is eliminated. So we're going to keep track of that throughout the season. So let's now also another rule to keep in mind, we have to use a position player from every single team. So we knock out a couple of teams along the way. Now let's get into SEC Fantasy Draft for week number two. Since I won week number one, I used my overall pick on Nico, the quarterback of Tennessee. Tennessee got a big matchup in Charlotte in the Duke's Mayo Classic kickoff against NC State. That's going to be a top 25 battle. Not too much impressive NC State. NC State kind of struggled at times with Western Carolina. On the other side, Nico threw for 314 yards in a heck of a game for him. So I think that Nico is going to do the same thing. Heck, give me 300 more yards, and I will take that to the bank. But I think that this Tennessee offense is going to explode against NC State. Again, not too much impressed with this NC State team. So I think that Tennessee, I'm going to go ahead and give away my pick. I think that they roll in this one. So I think that Tennessee, I think that you, on the other hand, just went with the safest pick that you can with Jackson Dart going up against Middle Tennessee this week.
Yeah, I got a little too cutesy with the quarterback position. Had my pick of the litter week one and chose a guy that threw for 94 yards. So I'm cutting straight to the business this week. I'm going with the guy who threw for 445 yards in one half. And we're going to get the quarterback position nailed down. I don't care if they play a cupcake week 3 and I want to save them. I need to get some yards on the board at quarterback. So I'm going with Jackson Dart.
All right. So Jackson Dart and Nico probably going to be the top two quarterbacks here in the SEC. So that's really solid picks there. Let's go on to the running back. You took the first running back of the board here in this draft, Montrell Johnson. Talk about his matchup against Samford. Montrell Johnson had that big 70-yard run. That was the big play that Florida got. But outside of that, Florida's offense did not look good. So how can Montrell Johnson really do against this Samford team that also went 0-1 to start their season?
Yeah, I think that this offense is just going to have to run through Johnson literally for the time being because we talked about Graham Mertz struggling to push the ball downfield. And Johnson last year was really good in a running back committee with Trevor Etienne. And, you know, now this is his backfield. So he's going to get 15 to 20 carries a game. And I think he is a good bet to get close to 100 yards, you know, against a team like Samford.
And it can't be SEC fantasy without one of us taking Jarquez Hunter. So he gets a good matchup with Cal. That's a tough road trip. Auburn had to do it last year. Now Cal has to come all the way to the Plains in a hostile environment. Auburn's offense put up 70 Alabama and A&M. Either Alabama A&M is one of the worst teams in the FCS, or Auburn's offense is going to take a big step under Hugh Freeze in year number 2. But Jarquez Hunter, he had 50 yards, got him a touchdown. I think that Auburn in this rushing attack is really going to come alive against this California defense. That looked all right in week number 1. So I think that Jarquez Hunter is going to have himself a big game at home. It might lead to Auburn victory as Auburn looks to go 2-0 on the season. So two of the more talented running backs go off the board here, Montrell Johnson and Jarquez Hunter here in week number 2. Now let's go on to the pass catchers. Two talented pass catchers, Ryan Williams out of Alabama. They get a matchup with South Florida, a team they struggled with last year. So Ryan Williams, he had himself a big game, only a couple of catches, but over 100 yards and a touchdown. What do you think about this matchup against the Bulls?
Yeah, this guy's the next stud freshman for Alabama. He's 17 years old, reclassified to play this year for the Tide. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but man, is he special. Like you said, just I think 4 catches for 105 yards or something. So he made them count. And I think that he'll continue to develop that rapport with Milroe. I mean, this Alabama wide receiver room is pretty wide open. Isaiah Bond to left, and Jermaine Burton graduated. So it's really anybody's for the taking. So I like the young guy.
Yeah, I thought about taking Williams with the first overall pick too. So that's a good pick by you, leading the wide receiver group. I'm going to go Eugene Wilson. He was one of the lone bright spots in this Florida offense. You know, along with Montrell Johnson, Wilson was the leading pass catcher for this Gators offense. So going up against Sanford, I think that Florida is going to get back on track. Just another tune-up game before they host a crucial matchup with Texas A&M. In week number 3, a game that could really be a swing game for both teams since they already have a loss in their loss column. So Eugene Wilson, he's just gonna do the same thing, get a couple of catches, maybe a couple of touchdowns too. So look for Wilson and Williams to have a big game against these non-conference foes in week number 2. Now let's close off week 2 with SEC Fantasy Draft with the defenses. You're going to go with LSU against an FCS school, in-state school, that is, with Nichols. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt against FCS school from Mississippi, Alcorn State. So you're going to go with LSU pretty early and try and knock them out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense looked pretty good yesterday. I really don't have many qualms. I think that they looked a little relaxed on the final drive. I wish that we maybe put some more pressure on Miller Moss. But it was a good showing. LSU improved on defense, and they should have no problem with Nichols. This is just, to me, about what's ahead, the schedule. And who knows? I mean, maybe this defense got lucky on some plays yesterday or something, and maybe they're not as improved as they were from a year ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and take them now. I think they can maybe get me the win here in week 2, and that will be good enough. And I'll save some of the other teams for later in the year.
Yeah, I'm going to knock out Vanderbilt here. They get Alcorn State, and Alcorn State just lost to UAB, a team that I'm quite familiar with, 41-3, and Alcorn State cannot move the ball whatsoever against UAB's defense. Vanderbilt, though, you go to the first half of that Virginia Tech game, this Vanderbilt defense, I mean, they had a pick 6 from one of their big fellas, the defensive tackle. So they had some really nice plays in the first half. Obviously, Virginia Tech's offense and Kyron Jones was able to get it done to get it to overtime. But I really like this matchup of Vanderbilt's defense. So both of us are going to be knocking out LSU and Vanderbilt in week number 2. Hopefully, both of these defenses can live up to the billing and, get around 200 yards. We're looking for that probably. We'll see if LSU and Vanderbilt can rise to the challenge in week number 2 against their respective matchups against FCS schools, which they will probably crush in week number 2. Now let's go on. Talking about Vanderbilt, let's talk about that game. This game came all the way down to the wire. Vanderbilt got off to a 17-0 lead, and I was like, what is going on with this Vanderbilt team? But Vanderbilt, they won 34-27 over the Hokies. A lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid of Virginia Tech, even though this team went 6-6. To be honest with you, I wasn't buying with the hype, 13.5. I will say I took the bet in my parlay, but I'm not doing that again. I think that Vanderbilt never go against Diego Pavia. This man is an absolute dog. He can be at New Mexico State. He can be at Vanderbilt, and he's just going to be an absolute dog for them. So I think that Vanderbilt is probably going to be better than some expect. I mean, you got a guy coming from a school like New Mexico State. So I think that this defense, I got to give credit to them. I know that Virginia Tech ultimately did tie this ball game. And Vanderbilt had a chance to win it there in regulation, but their kicker missed like a 35-yard field goal, shanked it to the right. But Vanderbilt was able to step up. They scored first, got themselves a touchdown. Then Virginia Tech was set up at a 4th and goal. Vanderbilt's defense stepped up nicely. So I know that you were pretty high. One of your bets was also, Virginia Tech of covering the spread. But what did you see from the Commodore squad in week number 1?
Yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised and very impressed by Vanderbilt in this one. I mean, they just looked like they had a swagger about them that we haven't seen since like James Franklin era. And I thought that they had a lot of fans at the stadium that weren't wearing burgundy and orange. So that was refreshing. And I think that this can do wonders for this team because, look, I mean, the SEC slate's going to be hard. And this was a hard out-of-conference game. I know you got it at home, but still playing against a team that maybe is a dark horse to win their conference. So anything you can do out of conference lightens the load of what you have to do in the conference. So to go into conference play with a win this past week and then, presumably this week, Vanderbilt could be in a situation they haven't been in a long time, which is entering conference play with, 3 or 4 wins. And then you just take one bite at a time. You say, oh, can we knock off South Carolina or Mississippi State, Arkansas, somebody reasonable and work your way towards a bowl game. So very good for Vanderbilt. I like Pavia as well. Thought about taking him this week in SEC fantasy, so I'm sure one of us will at some point. And
I will. Don't you worry.
I think this team is it's on the right track.
Yeah, definitely a nice win for the Doors. So we'll see if they can continue their winning ways as they face off against Alcorn State in week number 2. Now let's go on to one of our game of the weeks here on SEC Talk. Number 14, Clemson versus number 1, Georgia. And this was close for the half. And then Georgia, just to be honest with you, that second half adjustments, Kirby Smart, great job by the coaching staff. I mean, Georgia put it on them. I mean, I said 34-10, got close, but Clemson, they just could not score a touchdown. They could not move the football whatsoever against this Georgia defense. Carson Beck had himself, he had a slow start like this offense did, but once Georgia got going, they never looked back. So not much to be said. I'm not really surprised by this score, to be honest with you. I knew that Georgia was just going to put it on them. I'm not too really high on Clemson. Now, like I see the ACC, I mean, shoot, if Miami plays like that every single week, Miami's just going to cruise to 12-0 season in the ACC. I could definitely see that happen. But were you surprised from the score? What impressed you with the Bulldogs in week number 1?
Yeah, I think just the defense. I mean, the offense wasn't the greatest at times. I mean, this game was very low scoring, and then Georgia pulled away late. But I just think the defense stepping up and reloading, a lot of new faces, and just really never giving Clemson a chance. It was pretty stifling. So I still am very high on Texas, but I think that maybe Georgia didn't take a step back. If anything, maybe they took a step forward on defense.
No, they definitely are the defense that we expect them to be. So great win for Georgia. We'll see if the Clemson Tigers can bounce back. They got a tough one, though. App State coming to their place. That's not the team that you want to see after a loss like this. So upset alert. I don't know. That's not an easy one. So I would keep an eye on that score with App State and Clemson. That's going to be a close ball game. I would not be shocked if the Mountaineers pulled off the upset. I honestly wouldn't even call it an upset. They should be the favorite. All right, let's go to the next game. This was the Sunshine Showdown. It wasn't much of a game, to be honest with you. Miami took it to them 41-17. Honestly, this wasn't even close. This was a statement of the week. You could talk about Georgia, but Miami made the statement of the week in week number 1. This was a close game, like I said. It was 17-10 after that Montreal Johnson 70-yard touchdown run. But after that, not even close. Florida with Graham Mertz, you talked about him. He did get injured. We saw DJ Lagway. We actually saw movement from this offense. I mean, DJ Lagway honestly should be the dude going forward. Forget about Graham Mertz. You just got to look towards the future at this point if you want to say the season, to be honest with you, because Mertz isn't it. But Miami, though, Cam Ward, he might be an early Heisman front runner there if he can continue to play like that. But this Miami offense, their offensive line dominated this game against. I mean, Miami just took it to them. It was like Miami just put their foot down and never looked back. So you got to be impressed with this Miami team going forward. I mean, looking at their schedule, they get really their toughest game left is Florida State at home. So you really got to like Miami's chances going forward. And the ACC, that's going to be looking up and down the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's wide open. For Miami to take it, and they did look really impressive. And Cam Ward absolutely was the best quarterback on the field. For Florida, I mean, this is just tough because they need to get some momentum over the first couple weeks because it's really a tough back half of the schedule. I agree. I mean, look, give it 3 or 4 games, and if they're sitting at 1-3 or something, I think you have to turn it over to Lagway, because if not, he might be leaving town, and you're stuck with a new coach and no quarterback. So things could turn really south quickly for Florida, but who knows? Maybe Miami's just that good, and maybe Florida will settle in.
Yeah, we'll see if Miami's that good. They get Florida A&M week number 2. Florida gets Samford, so the Gators will be looking to bounce back. Let's go on to the next game, a defensive battle between the Fighting Irish and Notre Dame, number 17 in the country. Number 20, Texas A&M. Kyle Field was rocking. This was a defensive battle. It was a field goals galore in the first half, and then you saw. I mean, Notre Dame's running back. My gosh, that man must be the fastest man in the world. He has. I looked at it. I put EA Sports College Football 25. That man has 94 speed. He's almost as unstoppable in the game as he is in real life. So I was really impressed with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense, they're elite, man. They're definitely going to be a problem going forward. But Texas A&M side, not the game that I expected from Connor Weigman. Only 100 yards and 2 interceptions. So not the game that Aggie fans wanted to see from their starting quarterback. Le'Veon Moss did have a good game, 70 yards and a touchdown. This Texas A&M defense, you got to give props to them. But Riley Leonard ended up making the plays at the end as Notre Dame defense got the stop there, and they kicked the field goal to make it 23-13. So it was a really good game. But, man, you got to give credit to Marcus Freeman, this coaching staff in Notre Dame. We talked about Miami's schedule. Look at Notre Dame's schedule. This could be a team that can make the playoff at 12-0, 11-1. Their hardest schedule left is the last one at USC. So Notre Dame could be one of those teams that we talked about every single week being a potential college football playoff team. But for Texas A&M, what do you see from this squad?
I mean, I don't think it was disappointing. I think that Notre Dame came out and was the real deal. But I was a little disappointed at the quarterback position. I mean, it's not like Riley Leonard took this game over. And Connor Weigman still looked like the inferior quarterback on the field. So I expected a little bit more out of him, but I get it. Notre Dame's a tough defense, and this is his first game back from an injury. So I don't think there's too much room for alarm at the moment. I was more impressed by what Notre Dame did versus what A&M didn't do. I think this team's going to be all right. I think they're just going to be in that 7-5, 8-4 range if they can shape things up.
Yeah, it's a good win for the Fighting Irish. Now let's get on to our final game that we're going to be recapping in week number 1. Then we're going to close the book on the opening weekend here in the SEC. Number 23 USC versus number 13 LSU in the showdown in Vegas. And the Trojans came away with a 27-20 win. It was scoreless in the first quarter. If you took the under, good for you, because I was very skeptical on the 64.5 over. I just felt like something was weird and wacky was going to happen. That was going to be a defensive battle, and that's what we got. LSU did get the ball first, so they drove all the way down the field. Brian Kelly, once again for the second consecutive season, went for it on fourth down. They did not get it. But USC's offense went down the field, and they also had to punt as well. So the first points on the game, I can't even remember. What was it? It was
Kyron, or actually,
I can't remember.
Southern Cal scored first on a run by our old SEC guy,
Oh
Joe
yeah, that's
Marks.
right. Woody Marks. Yeah, Woody Marks was a problem. So USC got on the board first, and then you saw Garrett Nussmeier in that offense step up on the field. Kyron Lacy touchdown. I'm trying to go to the game, but honestly, doing an early morning show, I can't even remember this game. But in the end, that's LSU's defense. Couldn't get a stop there in the end, as Woody Marks, like we just talked about it at Mississippi State. He ran it in for a touchdown. That was the dagger, as once again, LSU cannot win a season opening game. So what did you see? Once again, we're going to keep it brief because we already have another show that we're going to do there. So let's keep it brief for this game. But what do you see from LSU's side? You got to be impressed though of USC. I mean, USC's defense, we ragged on them all last season. You got to give credit to their new defensive coordinator. This looks like an entirely new defensive team. They definitely beefed up in the offseason. That definitely paid off for the Trojan defense. So very impressed with USC's defense. But what do you see on LSU's side in this game?
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time you saw USC
For a long time.
intimidate people with their defense? That's besides Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. I mean, that's what got them to such great success in the early 2000s. But yeah, LSU, I mean, I think the defense looked good. The offense didn't look bad. I just thought it was a very vanilla game call, really on both sides. I felt like LSU did not try to push the ball down the field. There was a lot of short crossing routes with Mason Taylor and with Kyron Lacy just running quick little out routes, and I thought that was great to get Garrett Nussmeier, settled in. But then I expected LSU to take some shots, and it just never happened. I think some of the game plan could have gotten thrown off with Chris Hilton being out. He's your deep threat. Kyle Parker, his replacement, got banged up after securing a catch. So maybe that just kind of took that out of it. Kyron Lacy's not really a deep ball guy. He's more of a possession receiver. But you got Aaron Anderson, who's fast as anybody out there. Give him a shot. And I guess Shelton Sampson just must be in the doghouse because we didn't even see him, and he might be the fastest receiver on the team. So I just think the lack of the vertical threat was tough because you're going from Brian Thomas to what? And it was definitely something missing. And then the run game, I was pretty disappointed there. I mean, we heard Will Campbell talk a bunch of crap all week about running it down the throat. We didn't come here to have fun. We came here to get in a fight. Oh, really? Well, you got 2 false starts and we ran for 100 yards with 2 dudes that are our age. So
Yep.
I don't think we really did that. I thought it was pretty lackluster, and I don't know what happened to Caleb Jackson, but I thought he was really going to step it up and be the guy. But, you saw a lot of John Emery and Josh Williams. But, I don't know. LSU's done this 5 years in a row. Probably will go 10-2. It's just frustrating to go into Tiger Stadium with a loss for the 5th straight year. I mean, it's just...
It kills the home and hope opener environment.
Yeah, like it's so fun going into a season, with everything laid out there, all the hopes and dreams still alive, and it is now with the 12-team playoff. Like this is not
an elimination. Only for 1 or 2 more losses, though.
Right, and you're gonna have to trust your quarterback a little bit more to make plays against more dynamic teams like Alabama and Ole Miss. And he's got some road games coming up too. I mean, they got to go to South Carolina before he even gets to play a true home game against a good UCLA team. So it's going to come at LSU quick. I'm not panicking yet, but I think this team might have to lower our expectations a little bit.
Yep, I definitely agree with you. So let's see how our crew did in the week 1 pick'em. And Chet took the win, 13-3, and guess what got him that victory? The Vanderbilt Commodores. He took the doors over Virginia Tech, so 13-3. Very good showing.
We all missed the on the big games that we all took the same team. That was 0-3.
We did not do good on the big games. We did not do good on the best bets either. We went 0-4 in that department. So Hopefully, we're gonna do better in building that bankroll once we do our show this later afternoon. So 12-4, 12-4. But honestly, it's so easy to get over 500 in these early weeks because nobody's like all these SEC teams mostly are not playing anybody. So 12-4 for Wade and I, and then Chet 13-3. So now let's move on to week number 2, and we normally don't get our game of the week in our first game that we look at, but we are. It's the big noon kickoff that we're getting. Number 4 Texas, a team that you're very high on. This is probably going to be one of their toughest tests of the season. They get a road date in the Big House at number 9, Michigan. Michigan, they did get the victory against Fresno State. Did it look good? No. Is it week 1? Yes. So am I worried? No, I'm not. But number 4 Texas, I mean, man, what a showing by them. I remember Colorado State, they were talking some crap in the offseason. They're 2 players. They could have went to the NFL, but they got paid. And they come back, oh, we're going to win a national championship. No, you're not. You're going to get Texas 152-0. So the Longhorns and the Wolverines, probably going to be a more defensive battle between these 2 teams. So I'm guessing you're going to go with the Longhorns since you have Texas going pretty far here this college football season.
Yeah, I mean, I like Michigan too. I think people are doubting them, but I'm definitely a big Texas believer. And I think yours, he's mature enough to go in and handle this game. And honestly, I was kind of surprised that Michigan went away from Alex Solargi at quarterback. So I think they have some questions there. And this Texas defensive line is really stout. So if Michigan's plan is just to run Donovan Edwards, good luck. I don't even think he gets 100
Donovan
yards.
Edwards didn't even have that good of a game either.
Yeah, I just don't even see him getting close to 100 yards in this one. If he does, then they'll probably win. But I think this Texas defense is really good, and I'm going to take Texas.
Yeah, I don't. Texas is the favorite. Like they're honestly like a heavy favorite. They're what, like 5.5, 6.5 the last time I
Yeah.
looked at that line. So I think most of the money is going to go on this Texas team, just based on week 1. I don't think that many people were impressed with Michigan. They were only up like 24-16 going into. They needed a pick 6 from Will Johnson to get to 30. So not a great offense showing, like you mentioned, Orgy. They didn't get the start, which I was very shocked. They pretty much went with their other guy. So I don't think that they'll be able to go with this 2 quarterback system. So I would give the quarterback edge and the offensive edge to Texas right now, just based on what they look like. But if they can't run the ball, then it might be a long game for them. So I think that Michigan, though, they're going to have to open up this pass game. I think this is going to be a defensive battle, low-scoring game, but I'm going to go with the home team here, go with the Michigan Wolverines. I picked it in the preseason for Michigan to beat Texas. I'm not going to change from that. So I think it's going to be like 21-20. It's going to be a very close game coming down to the wire. So give me Michigan to beat the Longhorns at home. Looks like I'm the only one trusting the defending national champs. As Chet is going to go with Texas. So 2 SEC, 1 in the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Michigan to win this one. So there you go. Not all of us picking the same team on the big game for once this season. Let's see let's see how that happens. So Arkansas heads to number 17 Oklahoma State. Arkansas, like we mentioned, big victory against Arkansas. Pine Bluff put up 70 burger. Oklahoma State, they beat a really good FCS team in South Dakota State, 44-20, and Ollie Gordon in that game. So Arkansas, a tough road trip. Do you see the Hogs pull off the upset here?
Well, they at least made me think about it because they scored 70 points, like you said, but Oklahoma State shoved all that crap aside about, they're going to lose to South Dakota State. Defense looked good. They put up 44 points. I think they're just going to ride Ollie Gordon to another 200 yards against Arkansas, and I think they win this one by 2 touchdowns at least.
Yeah, I don't see this one being close, to be honest with you. I knew Arkansas put up 70, but Arkansas Pine Bluff is terrible. But yeah, Oklahoma State, they could just hand the ball off to Ollie Gordon. Alan Bowman could also have a good game against this Arkansas secondary. So I think that Oklahoma State, hostile environment with Oklahoma State. So that's a tough environment to walk into. I know Arkansas, they play in the SEC, but that's a tough road trip to go up there, play Mike Gundy's squad. So I think that Oklahoma State wins this game like 42-20, to be honest with you. I just think that they put it on them. I think by far the better team in this ball game. So give me the Cowboys, and Chet's going to go with the Pokes too. So consistent pick there for the Big 12 school. Yeah, I feel like this is Big 12 talk. We talked about Texas and Oklahoma State already. So let's see what team. Oh, maybe we're talking about Texas A&M. All right. So if we were like a decade ago, this would be Big 12 talk. But McNeese heads to the 12th man to face off against Texas A&M. Not really going to say the rankings because that ranking is going to change. But do you see the Aggies pulling off a win here against McNeese? McNeese, they just won against Southern. So how do you see the Aggies faring in week number 2 here in this matchup?
I think Texas A&M gets it right here. I think that they get the win. Hopefully, Wagman gets a little bit more comfortable, then they can stretch the field. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be much of a challenge.
Yep, get back on track here. Wasn't impressed with McNeese's offense. They are not very good on that offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go with Texas A&M clean sweep for the Aggies at home. Go on to the next game, a game that we don't even have to talk about. Let's just put up 3 G's and move
G's
on.
it
All
up.
right, let's go. California at Auburn. I mean, that's just going to be an absolute. I mean, what? Like, why do we even have to talk about Tennessee Tech and Georgia? You might as well just go on a bye week if you're going to play that team. So California at Auburn, we saw this matchup. This was a very ugly game last year. Now California has to go all the way, go on a plane and face off against Jordan Hare. A very tough environment. So how do you see the Golden Bears faring in that hostile crowd? Because I don't think Cal has played in that type of crowd in quite a while.
No. Closest thing would maybe be a trip to Oregon or Washington. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really underrated game. You got 2 of the best running backs in the country with Jalen Ott and Jarquez Hunter.
Glad you mentioned that.
Facing off. So I think it's going to be low scoring like last year's, and I think both teams are probably going to run for over 200 yards collectively.
Hey, you might even see Peyton Thorne run for 100.
Yeah, he's going to be scrambling a lot. Not really sure about Cal's quarterback situation, but the best way they can limit that Auburn crowd is to run early and often with Ott. So if he can get his feet going, I think this game could be close, but I do see Auburn pulling away. I think they win this one, I'll say 24-17.
Yeah, I think that Auburn pulls away late here. I could see like a double-digit win, like 27-17, something like that. But I think that Auburn's defense are going to step up to the challenge here. I think that this is going to be rely on your running backs, like you mentioned, Ott on Cal's side, Jarquez Hunter. I picked him, so I must expect him to have a big game, and I think that he will. So I think that Peyton Thorne as well had himself a good game against Alabama A&M. So I think that Auburn gets a big victory here, moves to 2-0 on the season, and Chet thinks the same. So I'll say War Eagle this week. Now let's go on to the next game, our first conference game that we're going to be talking about this season, South Carolina at Kentucky. This is not an SEC East. This is just an SEC game. So no more divisions. So the Gamecocks, oh boy, they did not look good against Old Dominion in game number 1. Not very impressed with the Gamecocks. Kentucky, they didn't even get to finish their game because they had to deal with 2 weather delays. So they won 31-0. I mean, if you're up 31-0, you might as well just call it, and that's exactly what they did. So Kentucky, really good showing against the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. South Carolina, we'll see what they can do. So you're going to go with the Cats or go with the Gamecocks here in this first SEC battle?
Yeah, South Carolina won an ugly one against Old Dominion. Lenore Sellers didn't look too comfortable. He ran 15 times. I mean, maybe against a team like Kentucky, I want to see that, but I want to see him stay in the pocket against a team like Old Dominion. And with this being a road game, I don't trust the young signal caller yet, so I'm going to go with Kentucky. I think this defense is really good, and there's a reason why I picked them to be my surprise team, because if Brock Vandergift can bring any sort of upgrade at quarterback from what they had last year, I mean, this team should win 8 football games, and I think this is one of them.
I don't think this is close. I just think that Kentucky is the better football team, to be honest with you. Like you mentioned, Lenore Sellers, his first really true road test, and you got to face off against a Kentucky defense that got after in week 1 against Southern Miss. So I'm going to go Kentucky here. I think that they win pretty comfortably. This has been a rivalry that, it's been really ruled by Kentucky as of late. So we'll see what this can do. But I'm going to go Big Blue Nation and get a big victory there to open up their SEC slate 1-0. Chet's going to go with the same. So all rolling with the Cats against the Gamecocks in this matchup.
South Carolina
Let's
fans
go on to the
hate
next.
playing that game week 2, by the way.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go to the next one. Middle Tennessee at number 6, Ole Miss. We might as well just say, how many points will this team score?
Yeah, I think that they probably have more touchdowns than there are letters in the name Middle Tennessee.
That's probably a safe bet. So Ole Miss, and Ole Miss. This will probably be another 70-point outing for the Rebels, as Middle Tennessee did not look good in week number 1. Let's go on to the next one. South Florida at number 5, Alabama. This game was close. South Florida, to be honest with you, they're one of the talk of the town, the American. Everyone's talking about Memphis and South Florida to match up in that American championship. We'll see if they can keep it close again with number 5, Alabama. So how do you see this game faring out between the Bulls and the Tide?
I mean, I think Alabama should boat race them at home. It was a little close last year, but Milroe's the dude now, and I think they win this one 56-7.
Okay, I don't think it's going to be that big of a blowout. I think that South Florida will be able to score more points than West Kentucky did. That was 0. Yeah, the same TJ Finley walking in the building once again. South Florida's with Brown coming in. He's a dual threat guy, so he'll be able to give Alabama some fits. But Alabama should roll in this one pretty easily with Jalen Milroe being the quarterback. And like you mentioned, Ryan Williams having himself look for him to get another touchdown in his department. Crimson Tide all around there as we're going to go with Alabama to beat the Bulls in this week 2 matchup. The next one, Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills are walking into town, but it is the Buffalo Bulls going on the road to number 11, Missouri. Another game we don't even have to talk about. I mean,
No
I think that
worries
Wade, you could say something about Buffalo. You play Bowling Green Dynasty. Buffalo isn't very good. So I'll roll with Missouri.
I beat them.
What?
I beat them with Ball State. I mean, with Bowling Green.
Well, that should something, folks. But let's go on to the next one. Sanford at Florida, another one that we'll just put up 3 logos here. I mean, it's Sanford, folks. I mean, they're playing a SoCon. I mean, you can talk about their teams if you want to, but I'm going to go all Gators here.
Hey, we got more teams to work through this year. We got to keep it rolling.
Yep, we got a lot of teams. So let's go to not going to be our official SEC talk game of the week, but this is a big matchup for the Tennessee Vols against the Wolfpack. So number 15, Tennessee against number 24, NC State. But look for both of those rankings to get better. But so you got in this matchup in Charlotte. You could say that NC State's going to be a home crowd, but this Tennessee, I would not be shocked if Tennessee fans make a difference here. So what do you got between Tennessee and NC State?
Yeah, it's not bad travel for either squad. I mean, I think both teams will sell out their allotment. And then I think Tennessee's going to scoop up a lot of the their aftermarket sales. And I really trust Tennessee's offense. And I think the defense is better than people are giving them credit. NC State kind of came out
not very good.
Yeah, I mean, they were tied going into the 4th quarter against Western Carolina. They got Grayson McCall. He's really experienced, and I think he's good. But, I mean, I just think he's got a tendency to run a lot, and I just don't know if that's going to mix well against Tennessee. So I like the Vols in this one. I think it could be close, but I'm going to take Tennessee 31-24.
All right, so we got a commenter, Dylan. Yes, we did get Arkansas. Already talked about Arkansas versus Oklahoma State, and we all picked the Cowboys. You're also saying NC State will win in sneaky fashion. I don't see it. This is all Tennessee. I have a dark horse. This is my dark horse team of Tennessee. What I saw from Nico, I know it's Chattanooga. I get it. But from what I saw of NC State, not impressed. Grayson McCall is going to have to play a very good game against this Tennessee defense that can get after the quarterback. So I'm going to go with Tennessee here. I think that they win by double digits and cover. They're a 6.5-point favorite. I think they can get that and cover. I think they can win by 2 touchdowns. So give me Tennessee to get this statement victory against NC State. And Chet's going to go with the Wolfpack with a crock pot on his head. So there you go. All right. So honestly, I'm shocked by that pick. I thought that Chet was also high on Tennessee, but I guess not. You're going to go with Grayson McCall. So 2 on Rocky Top and 1 on the Wolfpack to get this win. So Chet is agreeing with Dylan in the comments, thinking that NC State's going to get this big victory against Tennessee.
I mean, they should go on
to. Yep, absolutely. Let's go to in-state matchup. You'll be at this game in Death Valley with the new scoreboard and the new light show. We'll see how the environment is after a loss once again. So Nichols at number 13 LSU. Do you see the Tigers bouncing back here?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be an issue here, but it's the 100th year of Tiger Stadium. You got all these new upgrades, and
Mm-hmm.
we're already 0-1.
Yep.
That's just deflating.
All right, so we're gonna roll with three Tiger heads once again. I think that this will. I hate to do this to Nichols. I would like to see this be a good game, close game. Nichols coming off of their offense is showing to not look good against Louisiana Tech. They only scored 15 points against Louisiana Tech. Yeah, I don't think that Nichols is gonna be close in this one, but there will be a lot of Nichols fans in attendance. It's only an hour drive up there, so it will be a good drive, a good tailgating scene up there in Baton Rouge. So
Good food
LSU
for sure.
roll in this one against the Colonels. So let's go to Alcorn State at Vandy. Do you think Vandy starts off the season 2-0 with Go Diego Go at quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if they can beat Virginia Tech, I have no doubt about this one. Alcorn, like you said, struggled in their opener, so it should be no problem here for the Doors.
Yep, I picked the Doors in SEC fantasy draft, so that means a Vanderbilt win, and it's not going to be close. I mean, UAB put it on the Alcorn State week number 1. Vandy could do the same. So look for Vanderbilt to really another tune-up game for them, pretty much after a big showing by them in week number 1 against the Hokies. We're all going with the Doors. After Chet went with the Doors, we're on the train now. So let's see how far it could take us. All right, let's go on to the next one. This would have been a Big 12 matchup last season, but now this is SEC versus Big 12. Houston, my gosh, they suck. They lost to the UNLV, and they did not lose to them. They lost 27-7. This should honestly all be Sooners. If one of us picks Houston, we're just stupid.
I'm picking Oklahoma, but I did not know that Houston lost so early. I mean, you got to think Willie Fritz. Is the grass greener on the other side? Probably not, because it's Houston, man. The concrete jungle not treating him well. And meanwhile, Tulane is looking to get another conference championship.
I have one word for this matchup: boat race. Oklahoma wins and I mean, there's nothing really to be said. How do you lose to 20 UNLV? I mean, I know that UNLV is going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West, but come on, in your first game coaching, that's not the start that you want, Willie.
Hey, I have a question for you.
What you got?
Does USC owe UNLV a new turf because their idiot Trojan stabbed the 50-yard line?
Yep, they do. So Chet's saying ain't no grass in Houston, that's for sure. We have another commenter. I believe Oklahoma wins huge, but Houston bounces back on offense. Can't do much worse. I mean, you got to put up more than 7 points. But still, I think Oklahoma wins this one pretty big here at home. I just don't think that Houston's offense is going to be able to stop this Oklahoma passing attack with Jackson Arnold. So all rolling with Boomers Sooner on this one. So now an interesting road trip. A couple of years ago, Mississippi State went on the road to Arizona. They got the big victory. Now they have to go to their rival of Arizona State. So the Bulldogs, they look pretty good against Eastern Kentucky. I know it's Eastern Kentucky, but that offense of Jeff Levy's offense might be better than what we expected. So do you have the Bulldogs go on the road? Do you have the Sun Devils defending their home turf here?
I agree. I think the offense did arrive a little earlier than we expected, and I was really confused why they brought in Blake Shapen with 1 year of eligibility left and not even coming from the school that Levy was at. But looks like it might be a good solution for now. But this is a tough road game. Didn't Mississippi State play Arizona the last 2 years?
Yep.
And now they're playing Arizona State.
Yep.
Just kind of a weird one. Arizona State looked pretty good in their opener. So I have them winning. I think it'll be kind of close. Probably like a 7-point win for the Devils.
What a downgrade from logos. They went from Sparky being their logo to a pitchfork. So, yeah, that's good marketing by Arizona State. But on the other hand, I think this is going to be a very good game. Like you mentioned, this is a tough road trip. Arizona State, I mean, they beat a really good Wyoming team, and they did not beat them. They put up 41 points on them and only allowed 7. So Arizona State really looked good. Both of these teams look good. So I think it's going to be a very good game. Might be a more offensive showing. I think that both offenses show that they could get – this could be a 33-30 type of game. I'm going to go with the road team, go with the Bulldogs. Very impressed with this offense and Blake Shapen and how they were able to move the football very well. I think that Mississippi State's defense will ultimately get a turnover or two to flip this game on its head. So I think that Mississippi State goes on the road and beats them. Will be a very good game. Have this Mississippi State winning this year. Jets also going to go Mississippi State. So there you go.
Get
Lone
one on y'all in the
Arizona
standings
State.
here.
Dylan's also picking Arizona State to win by
Thank you,
3
Dylan.
in the comments. So there you go. But we're rolling with the Dogs. You're rolling with the Sun Devils.
Those new logos.
That is it. That game's at 9:30. So if you're a Mississippi State fan, good luck. That game won't end.
Perfect. I'll watch it after the LSU game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into some hot topics. The first one was hot. Brian Kelly gets heated in his post-game press conference. My gosh, did he throw the team under the bus? That's exactly what he did. He was slamming the desk, saying that, Miller Moss outperformed Garrett Nussmeier in this game, that it was the same problems that you said. Brian Kelly, is the seat getting warmer for Brian Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be because
he can't win a season opener. It's got to be.
It's all about the brand. And if every year LSU plays in a primetime game, it's the only game on Sunday.
Yep.
The whole country's waiting to watch it, and you get beat 3 years in a row. It's a bad look.
It was a bad look, him slamming the desk like a child.
Yeah, it's just not what you want to see. And like I said, I mean, they'll probably bounce back and have a good year, and it doesn't make sense to fire him. But what happens when we do get to the playoff with Brian Kelly? Is it going to be the same? I mean, it just seems like the big game gets to him.
Yep. So, you know what happened? It's the same thing that happened in Notre Dame. Notre Dame
and
fans
you know what? They need to ban NBA YoungBoy from that locker room. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Like, grow up. You're playing college football. You're not in the hood shooting guns.
Yeah.
Like, get your team straight and don't let them get stupid penalties that alter the game.
Yep. You had Kyron Lacey doing the gun at a player, and you had Major Burns taking his helmet off after you would have had good field position there. You would have at the 30. You would have been at their own 36, and you were now starting at LSU's 21. So that was a big difference maker. So I could see, Brian Kelly being angry, but he can only be angry at himself. Chet brings up a good point. He's going to talk about it on tonight's show. I'm sure that he's going to have a lot to say on tonight's show. If you want to get more reactions on that game, I think that we're going to be shooting for like a 3 or 4 o'clock start for that show. But he continues. It's all on BK. If we don't make the playoffs this year, then there is a very, very hot seat for him. If you're wondering what the buyout is, it's $56 if they were to fire him this year. So that is a lot of money to poke out. But a school like LSU isn't afraid to do that. And we have another comment. Riley proved he isn't scared of the SEC finally. I mean, shoot, he didn't want to play this game, but his team came to play. With that defense, it really impressive. Miller Moss, I mean, he really played well. Was a dog for USC that whole entire game. That is it for Brian Kelly's heated press conference. So we'll see if LSU can bounce back. So let's go on to the next one. What was the surprise from week number 1? Was it Vanderbilt? Was it LSU's goose egg? So what was it?
I'd like to say it was LSU, but I told y'all I was very scared of this football game.
Yep, you said it.
I'm going to say the surprise was Vanderbilt. I mean, I felt very confident in my pick of Virginia Tech. And not only did Vanderbilt win, but, I mean, there was times in that game where it looked like they were going to dominate and run away with a blowout. And then when they lost the lead, I was even more impressed because they battled back and won.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go to Florida being my most surprising. If you would have told me that Miami would have won this game 41-17, I probably would have called you crazy. I don't know. Once again, I believe in this Florida team that they could get the job done at home, and they just proved me wrong. I don't know. I'm done with that team. I'm not going to pick them probably again this season. We'll see. But yeah, I think that honestly was the most surprising and the most disappointing to me because you look at their schedule, we always talk about it. It's the hardest in the country, and they got a long way to go. Like their easiest game left is Sanford. After that, good luck trying to get some wins because you got UCF, Texas A&M. You already know what they got. We have the surprise was Arkansas. What Dylan said, it actually has the offense. It could go in Oklahoma State and both offense light up the scoreboard. I agree with you. I think that Arkansas is better than we So I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams, and maybe they save old Sam Pittman's job this season. So we'll
They
see.
definitely look dynamic.
Yeah, definitely that look dynamic, and honestly, they've moved the ball better than what KJ Jefferson provided for them. So we'll see how that offense can do down the stretch. Well, let's talk more about Florida. Where do they go from here? I know that you texted me they're going to go 2-10. Do you still believe that?
Yeah, they're going down. Yeah, this team just look. I had them starting the year 5-0 and then losing their
That's not
last seven.
happening anymore.
So now, at best, they go 4-1 and lose their last seven. I don't trust this team to win many football games if they're going to be so one dimensional on offense. You got to be able to throw the football, and who knows? Maybe Miami is the real deal, but I think there's teams in the SEC that could have given Miami a better first game. So I think that Florida, by the midpoint in the year, is with a sub 500 record, looking to hire a new
Without a head
coach.
coach.
Yeah,
There's no way that Billy Napier survives by Halloween.
yeah. If
I
they
mean,
lose the UCF, he is probably going to Disney
oh,
World.
he's gone. He's gone if they lose to UCF. You're going to lose the state. You're going to lose a lot of recruits if you lose to both Miami and UCF in the same season.
And then
I
they'll
mean,
lose to Florida State with the interim coach. If they go 0-3 against the in-state teams, this team could set themselves back for like the next 5 to 6 years.
Oh, did you see the video after all the Miami players went over to the Florida recruits and they say, "Come to Miami, don't come to
And
them."
UCF's having a good USF and UCF should have pretty good.
Absolutely. So I think where Florida went wrong was firing Dan Mullen, to be honest with you. They never should have fired Dan Mullen. I mean, that man was what, going 10-2, 9-3 every year. Now with Sunbelt Billy there, they're going to go.
What did they do the year that they fired him? I couldn't remember how bad they were.
I think they went 9-3, something like that.
Wow.
Dan Mullen was pretty consistent with them. So I mean, yeah, I agree with Dylan. I don't think that he makes it past week 5. I mean, if they lose the Texas A&M, I think he's gone this season regardless. So where does Florida go from here? Fire your head coach, do the rebuild, and honestly put in DJ Lagway right now. Send Graham Mertz back to Wisconsin because Wisconsin needs whatever quarterback they can get. So yeah, that's where I see Florida going. Not going to be very far. I do not see this team making a bowl game. Who was the most impressive SEC team in week number 1 to close off the books here in Hot Topics?
Could go Vanderbilt. I'm going to give it to Georgia, though. I mean, I kind of dogged on the dogs there for a little bit. You know, I said they were going to miss the SEC championship game. Still could. Not backing down from it, but they were very impressive to me. I mean, their offense actually did not come out firing, and it was okay because the defense just really stepped it up against Clemson. So I like Georgia as my pick.
Yeah, I like Georgia too, but I could go with Tennessee here. Honestly, I'm going to go with Tennessee. I know it's Chattanooga, but that offense really impressed me. I think that Nico, he could honestly be a sneaky pick for SEC Player of the Year if you continue that, and if Tennessee could be that good of a football team. So I know it's Chattanooga, but I was already high on Tennessee coming into the season, and just to see them perform to their capabilities, we'll see if what they can do against NC State here, week number 2, big matchup there. So I'm going to go with Tennessee. I know that's a boring pick since they picked Chattanooga. But that's what I'm going to go with. So let's go with some comments here that I missed here. Can we trade Miami for Florida? That would honestly be a good trade. But, Miami, they got to prove it now. You got their big victory against Florida, but you still have some games to play. Are they going to be the Miami of old, losing to Georgia Tech on some boneheaded play? So, Miami, their schedule sets up, but who knows? But if they do play like they did against Florida, I could definitely see this team win the ACC. And he's going to go with Alabama due to I want to see what happens when they lose and can't blame Saban. So there you have it. There are some of the comments. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, even if it was an early show today. So that's going to do it for us. We previewed some matchups of week number 1, looked ahead to week number 2. So next week's show is going to be back on Sunday night here in our normal spot, as we will be previewing week number 3 and recapping some of the marquee games here in week number 2. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Sports Grill podcast. We'll be talking NFL Week 1 is going to be kicking off on Thursday. It's going to be talking about that and also looking ahead to some of the biggest matchups in college football week number 2. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Labor Day, and we'll see y'all next time right here on SEC Talk.